Every relationship is different, and like women, there are some things that bother men about their wives that they tend to hold on to and talk about during their counseling sessions. Guys present with all types of issues, from infidelity to in-law troubles to issues meeting each other's needs and everything in between. Let's take a look at the top 4 complaints therapists hear from men about the women they love. Number 1, she doesn't seem interested in me anymore, and she shuts down my advances. This concern can be about her lack of sexual desire, but most times it's actually about not being interested in him as a person. Men often feel like their wives tend to tune them out, especially if they're talking about work or parenting, and a lot of husbands feel like their wives could care less about their interests and hobbies outside of work. Guys also worry about their failed bids for connection, like when he flashes her a flirty wink and she rolls her eyes, or when he reaches for her in bed and she turns her back on him instead. And lastly, husbands often complain that their wives are glued to their phones, scrolling stories and social media for hours on end, instead of consciously making time for the two of them. She's too anxious and seems grumpy all the time. This is a common complaint, particularly from men with children. It can be really difficult to cope with the partner's child-related anxiety. And mix that with a husband who feels like his wife pays more attention to the kids than she does to him, it's an issue that can feel pretty hopeless. Of the men who complain about their wives' hyper-focus on the kids, approximately 50% of them also believe their wives suffer from clinical levels of anxiety. Half the time, though, they're just more laid-back men who haven't experienced anything in their own upbringing that resembles the amount of attention their type A wives pay to their kids, for better or for worse. You can imagine how well those wives get along with their husbands' mothers. Number 3, things aren't as fun anymore. Everything feels like a crisis and is rushed. In today's culture, women feel a tremendous amount of pressure to do everything right, from parenting to homemaking, succeeding at jobs outside the home, or being the perfect stay-at-home mom, staying in good shape, eating right. Not to mention, they're making sure they're feeding all the right things to their kids along the way. It's no wonder women are already predisposed to anxiety. But all of this stress can yield a home atmosphere that feels more like a boot camp or an operating room. Add in a resentful husband who tries to play devil's advocate or be the voice of reason, and you end up with cataclysmic results. Regardless of who's originally at fault in this scenario, unfortunately, men who have this complaint typically end up retreating from the home, either physically or mentally, because they feel so stressed out by their own environment. And number 4, she's let herself go. Now, this isn't a complaint therapists typically hear voiced aloud in couples counseling, but it's often bubbling below the surface. Many men have a really hard time dealing with the physical and emotional changes they see their wives go through in a marriage. In reality, though, this complaint is often rooted in the first one we talked about. Guys feel sad or disappointed that the woman that they love seems to care less about impressing or attracting him, and it can feel like her body changes signify the end of her desire for him. It's not uncommon for a woman who feels unattractive to withdraw, emotionally and physically, from her husband and her marriage. And this issue, if it's not explored, can plant seeds that end up destroying the relationship long term. Whether she stopped exercising or started wearing sweatpants and seemed like she lost her energy and enthusiasm for life, this issue can often manifest in the first few years of parenthood when she's putting all of her focus and energy into raising their baby. It can also happen when the couple's going through hard times together, or even when she's experiencing her own bout of depression or a high-stress period of her life. Whatever the cause, during times like this, particularly when she doesn't feel supported emotionally by her husband, the disparity between her feelings and needs and her husband's can be a huge source of conflict. And if they don't find a way to accept and support each other throughout the ups and downs of the relationship, the incompatibilities can be too much to overcome. If any of these complaints have been voiced by you or your spouse and you're not in couples counseling, this may be a great time to start. These sorts of issues don't tend to resolve themselves without both partners being open to putting in the hard work. So having a well-trained and qualified counselor there will give you a safe place to vent, help you and your partner feel heard, and provide you with good advice and tools to resolve issues in a healthy and productive way. Was this video helpful to you? Let us know in the comments below. And be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to YourTango for more relationship and marriage advice.